Now it's time for our 2019 Man of the Year award. He looks like he stepped out of a James Bond movie. Please focus your attention once more to the video screens as we present the story of Curtis Martin.
Before his senior year at Alderdice High School, Martin's mother gave him a dose of tough love to keep him safe.
I gave him a month and a half to get involved in something. I didn't care what it was, glee club, anything, I didn't care. It's up to you, buddy. He went and tried out for football, and this is what happened.
The first time they pitched me the ball, I ran an 80-yard touchdown. It was a place that I felt safe. I didn't worry about any outside problems. I became intrigued with making people miss.
Martin earned a college scholarship to Pitt, and in a breakout junior season, he became a star. Football remained a safe haven and offered an opportunity to accomplish a goal he never thought possible. Curtis Martin's NFL prospects took a big leap forward with a 251-yard rushing performance in the first game of his senior season at Pitt.
Curtis Martin is running at will.
Bill Parcells' New England Patriots were one of the few teams interested in Martin.
I look at football as my sacrifice. It was like my basic training.
In Parcells, Martin had a drill sergeant who thrived on pushing players to their limits. Parcells would not let up on Martin once the regular season started.
The first play of the game, they gave me the ball.
The handoff is to Curtis Martin, sweeping to the left, cuts it back to 30, 45, turns outside to the 45, he's flipped it to the 45 on the right sideline, across the 45. A brilliant 29-yard run on the first play from scrimmage for Curtis Martin in the National Football League.
Went right down to the end. We had a goal line situation there.
I'll never forget taking that ball, trying to jump over the top, getting hit by Pepper Johnson, and then with everything I had, stretching out again, and finally got the ball across the goal line.
Yes! Curtis Martin leaps into the end zone for a touchdown with 19 seconds to go in the game.
I always saw the way I run as artistic. I thought that, you know, I make it up as I go, depending upon my instincts. And he said, you can't make everybody miss. You can't run around the ends in the NFL. People are too fast. It was almost as though, like, I felt like an artist with no paintbrush. And then eventually, he came to me and he said, son, am I hindering you by telling you what to do? And I said, Coach, I'll be honest with you, yeah, I feel like you're taking away everything I'm just gifted at doing. And he said, well, you know what, son? Just run.
Free to create, the artist put his brush to canvas. The results were bold and brilliant. Nearly 1,500 rushing yards and Rookie of the Year honors, with a yearning to do more.
Curtis Martin having perhaps his greatest day as an NFL player.
Curtis Martin, 199 yards on 40 carries.
It wouldn't take long after Curtis Martin's arrival from the Patriots in 1998 for Jets fans to learn about the resilience of their new running back. Soon, the doubting fans discovered what the coach already knew. Getting Curtis Martin down is no easy task.
The thing that he did well, and I think it proved to be the reason he played so long and gained so many yards, was that he was not overly fast, but he was elusive. They just never really got a great shot at him.
The pitch running wide. A spectacular run by Curtis Martin. Testaverde on the pitch to Martin running right. Tries to cut back inside the 5. Touchdown. Curtis Martin with the patience of a saint.
During his first 4 years in New York, no NFL running back ran for more yards.
And he becomes the 16th player in the history of the NFL to go over 10,000 yards rushing.
But the wear and tear of his workload began to take its toll. Martin hobbled through the 2002 season.
Curtis Martin can play through pain about as well as any player that I've come across in the league. He's been hurt a lot, still finds a way to get 1,000 yards.
The touchdowns were more difficult and more fulfilling. Martin donated 15% of each paycheck to charity. Martin did not reduce his expectations for 2004.
I ended up getting focused on getting 1,700 yards in a year. I made all my passcodes to my phones were 1,700.
Curtis Martin, just shy of 200 yards on the ground.
And I finished with 1,697.
You know, there was a lot of talk about Martin declining. I don't see any decline in Curtis Martin. This guy is something special.
At the age of 31, Martin earned his first rushing title.
The satisfaction wasn't the fact that I was the rushing leader as much as that I was the oldest person to ever lead the league in rushing.
Handoff Martin off the right side. He's at the 30, out across the 40, and that puts him over 14,000 for his career. Only Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and Barry Sanders have gone over the 14,000-yard mark, and they are on their feet saluting Curtis Martin.
Football gave me a great crash course on determination, work ethic. But when change is necessary, not to change is destructive.
Leaving the field meant more opportunities for Martin to grow businesses with the goals of helping others. It also allowed him to focus on starting something he'd wanted since his childhood, a family.
Curtis Martin with a lot of moves, and he shook loose of the Chiefs for the score.
Only Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and Barry Sanders rushed for more career yards than Curtis Martin. His football life ended, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
As we have just seen, Curtis Martin was quite the artist on the field, but off the field, Curtis Martin is so much more. He has sometimes said, your dreams are smothered by your circumstances. He founded the Curtis Martin Job Foundation, was the recipient of the Horizon Award from the Joint Leadership Commission of the Congressional Award Foundation. He launched an initiative sending surgeons to third world countries performing operations for the underprivileged and the uninsured. He's an artist with a brush who has painted a colorful life story for all of us to admire. Joining me to present the award is immediate past president Mike Madeira. Ladies and gentlemen, the Walter Camp Football Foundation is honored to present the Man of the Year award to 007 Curtis Martin.
Well, thank you. I feel like that video was so long, I don't even have to say anything. Well, you know, look, at the end of the day, football is a tough sport. You know, and I played against some of the toughest individuals, I believe, in the world. Guys like Ray Lewis and Junior Seau and Bruce Smith and Warren Sapp and all those types of guys. But today, you know, I want to honor someone who, to me, is the toughest person I've ever met in my entire life. My mother. As a young kid, from the time my earliest memories from 4 and 5 years old is, I'll never forget this, watching my mother put on sunglasses and go to work because my father, before she went to work, beat her up and blacked her eyes. And I tell you, as a little kid, when you see things like that, it really affects the way you see life. And I watched my mother work 2 and 3 jobs just to keep clothes on my back. My father was gone by the time I was 5, so she had to do everything on her own. I started living with her mother, which was like my second mother, and I spoke about it earlier today. One day we walked in and we found her mother, my grandmother, my second mother, murdered. Knife was in her chest, blood was everywhere, eyes were wide open, broken neck, everything. And to see my mother persevere through that experience, I mean, she's literally like this, I don't know your name, sir, but we're like this close. And my mother's standing there looking at her mother in the bed lying like that. I can't explain to you the difficulty that was for not only my mother, but for me as a kid. Unfortunately, after that, 4 years later, her sister was burned to death. I was 14 at the time, the first time I almost lost my life, the first time I was almost killed. By the time I was 15, I had a gun to my head, loaded gun to my head. The guy pulls the trigger 7 times, no bullet comes out. Not pointing the gun at me, pulls the trigger, and the bullet comes right out. So let me just say this, I'm glad to be standing here today. Football was simply an escape. I never wanted to play football. I didn't like playing football. I wasn't enthused by it. All my other friends were, all football crazy. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so there's a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and for me, football meant nothing. The only thing that made football make sense to me was that it kept me from being around the hood all the time, and it kept me out of trouble. And I literally played football because my mother begged me my senior year to play football just to stay away from the neighborhood because all of my friends were getting killed. And I've had way more than 9 lives. People always ask me if I miss playing a game. And of course, because I didn't really like football, I say no. But what I do miss, let me tell you what I do miss about football. I really miss the lessons that football taught me. Football was like a third parent. I didn't have that father there, and my mother was gone most of the time working. So football taught me, and it built in me those principles and those characteristics that my mother nor my father were there to teach me. And one of the most important lessons I've learned was how to put the past behind me. Simply how to put the past behind me. I don't know where I would be, and I've seen so many other kids and adults in my situation or grow up in that environment, and they had such a hard time putting the past behind them that now they're either dead in jail or they're living a horrible life. I heard this story about a group of people who went to camp out in the jungle, and they were vegetarians, so they were eating all fruits and vegetables. And at night, the monkeys would come, and they would always steal all the fruit, mainly the bananas. And after a while, they start trying to figure out how they could catch the monkeys from taking their bananas, because they would hear, and by the time they would hear the monkeys and get up and start chasing them, the monkeys would get away and jump up in the trees. So they took a coconut, and they cut out a hole in the coconut, and they put the banana inside the coconut. And at night, the monkeys came, and they went after the bananas, but the banana was inside the coconut, so the monkey reached his hand inside the coconut, grabbed the banana, and they heard him, and then when they got up to chase the monkey wouldn't let go of the banana inside the coconut, so they ended up catching the monkey and killing the monkey. I tell you that story just because of what I've been through, and I always ask myself this question, and I always make sure it's something that I'm not doing. I always ask people, what are you holding to? What are you holding on to that's holding you back? What are you holding on to that's holding you back? When I look back on my life, there's so many things that I could have held on to, but I'm so grateful to God And I'm just so grateful that I've been able to let those things go. Because being able to let those things go is what has me standing here today. So, I guess my message for tonight is let go of the banana. Whatever it is that you're holding on to, make sure it's not something that's holding you back. Thank you.
Once again, our man of the year, Curtis Martin.